Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to episode 159 of the Overdose and Chill podcast. This is our weekly podcast where we bring together leaders in retail, technology, innovation, anyone who's working in digital commerce, bringing you all of the hot new topics. We are broadcasting live across LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, probably some other places as well. And if you would like to ask us any questions, if you leave your comments in whichever platform you're watching on, they come into our little room here and we can throw them on screen. So today, something a little bit different. Joined today by Ash Virgo from Shopify POS, point of sale. We're going to be learning all about the expansion of their new product, how it's available to a much broader suite of merchants now. Ash, where in the world are you and how the hell are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. 159 episodes. You've done a few. Thank you. I am based in Sydney, Australia, currently residing from my at-home office in the Northern Beaches. So very, very lucky place of the world. Although today it's not a very sunny Northern Beaches location, I have to admit.
Yep, I agree with you. I'm over in Auckland and it has the cats and the dogs are raining today. Right, so we're going to have a little bit of chat about, well, in fact, maybe this is my first question. Am I allowed to use the words omnichannel anymore? Is that still okay to say omnichannel, or do we need to switch our vernacular now?
It is. Like, I think it's interesting, right? The term omnichannel has been around for what, 4, 5, 6 years, and I think the meaning of it has really evolved over time. If you're at Shopify, we're using the term unified commerce now. So we're definitely moving away from this omni-channel style term to actually it's not a set of channels, it's just commerce. And we show up for our customer wherever that is, whether that's online or offline. The systems and the way in which you present to your customer should be just unified, and we shouldn't consider them as all different channels. So yes, but also we're evolving it as well.
So if we think back to, and maybe the market understands it differently now, but if we think back to old school Shopify POS, this was mom and pop store, markets, single store, quick way to be able to accept some cash and have basically an additional head on top of your website. But the world's changed now, right? The world has changed and Shopify POS is ready for the big boys. And I understand you're kicking some big goals overseas as well. And you're ready to take on the wider APAC market as well now.
Yeah, we have. Not many people know this, but Shopify POS has actually been around for 10 years. So Shopify itself, yeah, I know, right? Many people are like, oh. Shopify itself, we're celebrating our 20 years this year. So everyone's off to Canada in a couple of weeks to celebrate, which is cool. But POS has actually been around for 10. So back in 20, if not a little bit longer, I think I was watching a video this morning, and this is where I go, gosh, Shopify just innovates at the speed of light. We first, I think, went to market with POS in 2015. And I caught up with a merchant the other day, a Lee from Assembly Label. And he was like, I was the first adopter 10 years ago of POS. It wasn't the world's greatest system, but fast forward to where it is today. We kind of rebuilt in 2017, then again in 2003. And then we've really put a lot of investment into the POS system over the past couple of years. And I just watched a video again this morning to say that we are rebuilding and launching a new kind of refreshed product to market this year as well. So to your question, yeah, we definitely back in the day, 10 years ago, were we ready for the Assembly Labels of the world? Probably not, but were we ready for the mums, the pops, the market stalls? Yeah, that's where we showed up best, right? And you were lucky to find POS, I think, if you were on Shopify. It was kind of if you maybe navigated to it in your online store and you saw the thing or you saw some marketing. We didn't have the teams really set up to support it. But I would say in the past 5 years internationally is where we really focused on POS. And then definitely in this market, the past, 2 to 3 years, we've really seen some great brands come on board. Globally, I guess people kind of often say to us, I can only kind of see you guys being fit for those smaller style stores. And I kind of go, well, we've got the Aloe Yogas and the Psycho Bunnies of the world transacting hundreds of thousands through POS every single day. And then local, well, we're really gaining some traction. So yeah, POS is starting to become the big boy. Like if you actually look internally at the things we care about and where we're putting a lot of our time and focus and development, it's on POS, and it's cool.
And so if I've got a brand that's running tens or hundreds of stores and has a Shopify website, I no longer need to really start or be committed to this old school blue screen point of sale that's hanging off the back of my ERP, right? You're ready. Yeah,
we are. And I think and to your point, Todd, big market perception, right? I think that's one of the biggest things we're facing in this market, especially in APAC, is I jump into meetings, well, my team jump into a lot of meetings. I get to sometimes hang out in some cool meetings. And that is the number one question we get. It's, but we've got our legacy retail system and everything's connected to that ERP and all the systems work. It's clunky in store. It's not great, but it's all connected and it works. And our kind of argument is, well, why in the world would you have a clunky retail system? If you look at the landscape today and you look at how people are shopping's on the decline. We know that people are being very more cautious of their wallets, and they're wanting to understand where they're putting their money. And I think in argument to that, there's that factor, but people also really care about, if you give them a good customer experience and if you give them great value, they're going to spend in your store. And I think what you see with some of those big legacy retail systems is you can't do that. So our argument is, why wouldn't you decouple them? Why wouldn't you have your big legacy ERP system still running the thing, the behind the scenes and being that heart of the business? And why don't you level up your in-store experience by having a really flexible POS system that meets customers where they are? And Shopify does that. So yeah, I think to kind of answer that question in a sentence, not a long-winded way, which I tend to do, is you don't need to be connected to that big legacy system anymore.
So I think one of the challenges when I'm speaking to merchants is that there is a required mindset shift here from transactional to experiential, right? And the old school view of POS was, this is just a pimped out Excel spreadsheet that is recording transactions. It's very ERP and accounting focused, right? It's a product for finance, not a product for customer. So how do you view that elevation from this being not just recording a transaction and reconciling with my FPOS machine into something which is biased towards the consumer and not biased towards the member of staff and the accounting team?
It's a really good question, right? Because I think what we find, and as we kind of in this region have more conversations with merchants, get in front of people. And it's funny, coming from Shopify, we're traditionally an e-commerce platform and we live in a digital by design world. So a lot of our meetings tend to be like this over the screen. But when we show up and speak about POS, we like to do it in a physical way because we sell a physical product, right? And we tend to find that now when we go to meetings, no longer are we just having a conversation with the e-com manager. You have got potentially 12 different people in the room that care about 12 different things. And so having that conversation to try and go, hey, Mr. CFO, I know you care about the accounting platform and e-com. I know you're very conscious about what's happening on the online, but we've got the head of retail who knows that we need to level up the in-store experience. But then you've got the managing director just wants to know it works and they want to know that it's cost effective. It's a challenging conversation, and it's certainly one where you're having to have different kind of personality shifts and stakeholder management conversations to try and make sure you're speaking to that person. And I think when you kind of go, what is that shift of, sure, it does the thing, even thinking of the CTO, a lot of the time they just want to talk about the functionality, the features, and does it do the thing? It's about how you kind of speak to that person and what you deliver to them at the time to help them see the value to what they care about. And I don't think we've nailed that, to be fair, because I think it's evolving and it's changing and it's leveling up as we in the market see consumer behavior change. So yeah, it's challenging. And I think you never really know what you're in for until you step into that room with that merchant and you start to see what they care about. But I have noticed that the mental shift of those heads of retails, of those ops guys, of the in-store experience team really has moved from, does the tech do the thing, to actually how does this change the way that we show up for our customers? Does it level up our in-store experience? Does it deliver value? Because at the end of the day, that's what matters most, and that's how you get, you retain customers and you acquire new ones.
So if we look at what's the utopia of retailers, a lot of the conversations we were having 2-3 years ago, and it kind of got ignored through COVID because we were only transacting online. But if you think pre-COVID, one of the key buzzwords in the industry was a single view of the customer, right? And really understanding everything that consumer is doing. Is it fair to say that if I've got an entire Shopify ecosystem, I've got my e-commerce, I've got my marketing pixels, I've got my point of sale, I've got integrated apps on there, that we're not replicating data? You're not going to end up with 2 customer records. This is a single view of a customer, right? And I can understand every interaction I've had with that consumer across either physical or digital channels.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny because I think I just assume that everyone should have that. But the amount of conversations that you go into, and Todd, you would have this more than me, right? Working with a lot of your merchants, is that the amount of people that don't have that, that simple single view of the customer, what they do on the online and the offline shouldn't matter. It should just be that, hey, you're Ash, and this is what you've purchased, and you want to buy it online, great. If you want to see it in store and then take it home and purchase it online, we can do that as well. I can buy online, pick up in store, I can return. Like, that stuff is just simple. And I can show you what that looks like in the POS as well. And I think it's interesting, right? Because to me, the customer shouldn't even need to know about that. That's just the tech and the thing that it does, right? Like, it should be expected that your POS system does that. And when you go into a store, and I had an experience the other day where I'm pregnant. And so I'm in this phase of buying 101 baby things. And I purchased all this stuff online and I went in store just assuming that I could return it. And I couldn't. And it created this friction where I was like, well, now I'm frustrated. I had to pay to return the items that I bought, which again, I think in this day and age, return should be free. And then they kind of, at the end of that, didn't ask who I was because they just said, we can't return that. So they've lost a customer. I'm definitely not going to be loyal anymore. They've had to make me go back home, return the thing. And it's just created this whole friction experience that I won't ever do again. And I think when you look at the technology and what we're providing and what's expected, having that single view of customer, knowing who I am as soon as I walk in the store, allowing me to do the things, you're going to get repeats. And I think that is where retail is moving and should be going.
So with a lot of the merchants that I speak to, in fact, I recently been doing a piece of consulting work for a very large retailer, and I actually think the problem lies deeper than the technology. It actually lies with the culture of a lot of these organizations that have a embedded culture of separation of revenue streams. And when you have a physical revenue stream, which is the guys in the store hate the guys that run the website because they think you're stealing my commission, you're stealing my sale, right? And then you take it back to the next level and go, well, why is that? And you go and speak to a CFO, and they're actually producing board reports which show you, here's the ROI that we had in digital, here's the ROI that we had in store. And trying to break that culture down to say, can we stop looking at channel and actually start looking at customer, right? And I actually think Google has pushed us in this direction, Ash, which is we've stopped talking about sessions and we've started talking about customers, right? So, the whole GA4, the re-architecture of that data, it's getting into this consumer centricity. So I get stuck when I'm consulting to firms saying, how do we become world leaders in omnichannel? That's a legit sentence I'll get once a month from a merchant, and say, well, this starts with changing how you report on your data. It changes how you KPI your staff, right? If you are KPIing someone who makes digital transactions and someone who makes physical transactions, you are still transaction orientated. You are not consumer orientated, right?
Yeah.
And then on the reverse of that, and I'm sure you see this, you've got digital teams that are frustrated and saying, well, I'm driving so much traffic into store. They're coming in educated. They've been showrooming on my website that I beautifully curated. I paid for the bloody photo shoot. I paid for the merchandising. And now they're going to come in store. They walk in, they pick it off the shelf. They buy it within 2 minutes. And do I get credit for that as the person that was coaxing them through that transaction whilst they were watching the 10 o'clock news? No, I don't, right? So do you see that the technology is there, but somehow we need to break through the culture of organizational structure, financial reporting?
100%. The amount of times I sit in a room with a head of an e-com and a head of retail, and they're like, well, how does that work from a sales perspective? Because obviously I've got my bottom line and they've got their bottom line, and we need to be conscious of that. And it's an interesting conversation half the time, because look, our technology actually does support making sure that each team is rewarded. Like, for example, if you make a purchase online and return it in store, that actually goes back to the online team. We'll be able to track that back, and that will come off their P&L. And right. For example, it's one of my favorite features in the POS, when you email someone their customer cart. So if I'm in store and I've spent an hour with you, Todd, trying on all different hoodies, and you decide to not buy one, not a problem. I'll email you your cart and you can go and purchase those online. That'll come back to me as the in-store assistant, and it will actually track back to me, Ash, because I've put my name against the sale. So we're leveling up the tech to be able to kind of still give back to the team that did the work. But I agree, there needs to kind of be this blurred line of, sure, they've gone through the online journey, they've put things in their cart, they've searched, they've looked at an ad, but actually, what does it matter when that customer experience in that journey is all the same across all those channels, and it's going back to you, merchant? But it's an evolving conversation, and it's one I'm finding more and more is happening less, because I do think, merchants are starting to see that there is more value in cross-channel servicing than it is by just looking at the online and the offline. But I think that conversation will evolve as the tech kind of catches up as well.
Yeah, and I think I see that the conversation becomes more difficult with however old the organization is, right? Yeah. So however, if there is scale, if there is entrenchment, if you're still speaking to a single brand founder-led organization with 5 or 10 stores, they'll be like, no, we're switching culture. We're moving to this. Everywhere else seems to be these heavy politicized journeys of, which is really, how do I make bonus? That's actually what people are asking. How do I make bonus? And I think we just need to shift the cultural change there of, all ships are rising with the tide here, so we should all win. But then you get into these complex attribution models, and I haven't quite found the solution to it, but I'm finding more and more a willingness to change, because they've seen that, oh fuck, I'm going backwards here, right? And well, it's really common. They'll come and speak to me and say, hey, I've got 200 stores, Todd. Why can't I have that same experience I just had at this this 3-store environment where I felt so much more loved? I felt more loved in there, but we make 100 times the revenue, but you're telling us we can't do it. It's like, you can do it. You just got to change your attitude towards it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And look, I think that's, even if you look at Shopify, right? Like when we came to market, not to call out the old legacy merchants that have big dev teams and stuff like that, it was, oh shit, like, am I going to lose my job if I move to a piece of technology that actually innovates at the speed of light? I don't need my 500-person dev team to run the thing. Actually, you're not going to lose your job. You're just actually going to be reinvested and put into another role that allows you to work on something that's innovative and building and new. And I think that's kind of, to your point, like those big legacy retailers often worry that moving from the big system that does and requires all the uplift and all of the thing actually isn't big and scary. You can actually just utilize your times in better ways and reinvest into marketing, and how do you leverage that data, and how do you give back to the customer, and then, to your point, watch your business go and make millions and millions of dollars more. So
and look, there is still resistance there to organizations that they will look at TCO, total cost of ownership, just in case I'm always speaking in weird phrases, but they are still obsessed with who they pay that money to, sometimes more often than how much they've paid for that, right? So there'll be that person that went to their board in 2017 and spent $1 million on a 10-year license for a piece of technology that they just don't want to put their hands up and say the market's moved, it's changed, right? And we're falling behind, and they will hang on to dear life. And where we see the most transformation happen is when you actually have human transformation as well in that organization. And you'll tend to see new people come along and saying, yep, that money's gone, that's spent, we now need to change. Yep. And also that attitudinal change of boards of stop trying to own technology, lease the bloody stuff, because Ash and her team have 1,000 times more developers that are going to build this thing out. And you know what? If you stop loving it, you just turn it off. Do you know what I mean? You just turn it off.
So true. It's always funny. I do agree with that, right? Like the amount of conversations I go into that are, oh, but we're stuck in a 5-year contract with said system. And I'm like, oh, well, that sucks for you. Well, why don't you just cut that contract, come across to POS, because you actually don't sign anything with us where we don't sign a contract. It's very much you give it a go. If you don't like it, cool, walk away. That's fine. Because
right there, that's what I love about SaaS, right? Because the essence of SaaS is that you are obliged to keep on innovating, because your retention is based on your consistent ability to be at the top of the market, right? Whereas if you have locked someone into a 5-year contract, what is your obligation to keep on innovating, right? You've basically bought your retention through that contract, and SaaS just levels that playing field. Anyway, let's get back to the retail side. Talk me through how what I do in store, how does that inform my next online experience if I've got a whole Shopify environment? And how does what do I do online assist the retail merchants when they're in store on POS? So let's really get into some of the grittiness of what omnichannel is really happening and why that single view is powerful.
Yeah, look, I think it depends on how you set up your systems, right? But at the end of the day, what we want to be able to do with both of our systems is be able to kind of meet the customer wherever they're at in their customer journey. So if I've been online and I've potentially browsed something on the online store, maybe I've put some things in my cart, we want to be able to give that information to the in-store team so they can continue that customer journey. Because what you tend to find with these legacy systems that we're talking about is that I can do all of this research. I can be really known as a customer online. And I think in Australia, we do that very well, right? Like digitally, we're in a good place and we have a lot of customer data that we can capture. We can see all of that. We can close the marketing loop. You can get an email to say, hey, you've left something in your cart. Come back and purchase it. And my God, the amount of times I do that. But when you go into the retail setting, you lose that. Mm-hmm. What we're doing with POS is we're allowing you to see all that information that you're capturing online. So that's actually built into the really cool apps, much like the online. So you know how if you have your Shopify platform, you can bolster on all these different apps that do all these wonderful things. It's the same with the POS. So you'll have your POS system. And then, for example, if you're using Yotpo for loyalty, you can bolster that on and you'll have that for your online and your offline. Same thing is done with different types of clienteling apps, for example. So there's some cool tech out there to kind of what I was just saying. If you're searching things online, maybe I'm filling my cart or even just browsing, when you come into store and you say, hey, like Todd, or well, actually, I'm not going to know who you are when you walk into store, mate. Hey, you come on in. I'd love to, capture your name. I can see, call it creepy, but call it informative. I can see what you've been browsing online, maybe what you have in your cart, and I can start to have really informed customer conversations with you that aren't just, so how's the weather today? Or what's it looking like outside? And you're allowing that journey to continue from the online to the offline. That's really kind of the heart of POS and Shopify and how we connect those systems together.
So if we go the other way around, if I've gone and bought my XL green hoodie, and I now log back into the website, as long as I've self-identified through that process, I can see both my transactions, right? I can see my in-store transactions in the online portal. Yeah. And my assumption then is that for a smart retailer, I can start to use that information. So it might be, hey, Todd really likes hoodies, or maybe Todd's already got enough hoodies, so we recommend some kicks. Or, Todd only wears size XL, Todd only wears green, or, so we can start to use those characteristics to do some search, merchant personalization at better scale.
Absolutely, you can. And also retargeting and remarketing as well, right? Like we know you've purchased your green hoodie in the store today. Why don't we level up and send you an email about the matching tracksuit pants?
So that's a banger right there, because we don't remarket to customers that have been in store. Now we can. Right? So the biggest barrier here then, Ash, is actually going to be self-identification when you're in store, right? Is there any innovation coming there to encourage people in a pre-purchase rather than at the point of transaction to identify themselves?
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually listening to a retailer talk the other day, and they said it's kind of like the grand finale of a sale, or like the closing ceremony is when they're at the cash register. And it's only then that we actually get to know our customer. It's only when they check out, I take their money, and then I can see that their customer details are XYZ. We're really trying to flip that. And we're trying to say that as soon as someone comes into store, you should be able to meet them and have a conversation with them and understand where they are. And I guess that kind of question comes down to the technology that we've got. So I feel like I'm a bit of an influencer here, but this is our handheld POS Go device. These are our roaming kind of POS systems. So you can train your staff or have kind of systems in place whereby if you've just walked into store, I can come on up to you and, ask how you're going and have you ever shopped with us before? And if you have, I can potentially look you up and find all that information about you very quickly where you are, instead of at the cash register when you're about to purchase something or walk away.
So we'll come back to the device because I want to see more. Is there a future version of this, which is kind of getting into Bezos, Amazon, Big Brother shit, where, is it beacons on your phone? Is it identifying, through an app or, some methodology, which is, because I guess where I'm leaning to as a marketeer is I want that first party data as soon as I can bloody get it. Do you know what I mean? How do we identify sooner, but in a permission-based environment?
This is where, and I don't know, like it starts, I think this is cool, right? Like I love the idea, and this could be generationally for me, but I love the idea that if I walk into a shopping center and I don't know, I got a voucher to use at LSKD, that as soon as I walk into that Westfield, I get a notification on my phone to tell me that LSKD is having 15% off today in store.
And they're on the third floor and they've got your favorite leggings in your size.
And my loyalty or my gift card has popped up on my phone in my wallet. There is tech like that out there, and it's coming and it's built into the POS. So again, kind of leaning back on that app piece, Light Card, really cool piece of technology that's doing just that. It's that whole kind of piece around you walk into the shopping center. They've got beaconized systems as well so that they can pick up when you're in the radius. And then as soon as I walk into store, I then get everything pop up on my phone and I can start to see it. They're doing some cool stuff in the interim where you can even walk around in the store. You might have a QR code set up. I can go and scan that QR code and I can start to get fed information that's relevant to me as well, because it's picked up that Ash is in store. This is what she's purchased online. She's a customer of ours. And then I can start to browse things on my phone and I can start to see inventory. Like, I think that's cool. I've had conversations with certain merchants where they've gone, oh, that's a bit creepy and I'm not sure that would work with our customer type. And I get that. I think there's certain demographics that would go, I don't want you to know that about me. But it's kind of, the tech is there, understand your customer, and then how you level up and service them is then on you as the merchant to try and work out what the right services are. But
And I think that where it comes back to that experiential conversation, which is what you're talking about here is helping people shop, not helping people buy, right? So you're helping them earlier in the experience layer to guide them through that process. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Now, my old school pre-2023 recollection of Shopify POS on mobile was my own device with a little keypad, and you've now just flashed up in front of us. You go on there. There you go. There you
this guy. Oh, I forget my Bob on the other side here. This Tamagotchi. Yes, this is what you'd still probably see if you went into a store today. Like if they haven't upgraded their tech and moved on to the new, you would have a very sexy Tamagotchi device that you would have experienced.
Yeah. Whereas now we've gone.
We've got these.
So through the things on there, you've got a little barcode scanner, you've got a credit card reader, you've got a full interaction of all of your stock, all of your customers. It's everything you could need. I don't need a separate device. That I haven't got a FPOS machine on my hip or anything like that. It's all there.
It does make me laugh that you say that on my hip. One of my colleagues the other day said, "Oh, are you in Manly and have you got your POS Go device on you?" I was like, I don't tend to carry this on my hip, but you could if you wanted to. But yes, to your point, this is everything. So it's an integrated, people often think it's a mobile phone. It's not. These are Shopify owned devices. So they're about $350-ish. Don't quote me on it, but around there. And they're everything. They're a barcode scanner. So you have that here. They're a payments device. So you've got, you can insert card swipe, but you can also tap. And then they are literally the POS Go device as well. So I can look up inventory. I can look up customer details. I can make the sale. I can do everything that you could do from your countertop device. And we tend to recommend, and I can show you the POS on the screen so it's a little bit easier afterwards, we tend to recommend that people have like an iPad style setup. So our POS system runs on an Apple iOS device or an Android device as well for those Android lovers out there. You would have that at your home and you would have a payments terminal, which this just converts, oh, there goes my laser. This converts into a payments device as well in a terminal. And then you'd have multiple of these floating around the store so you can meet customers wherever they are.
So literally, if I'm in a sports store and I just want to buy that tennis racket and don't need cash, you can check me out right there, right then, queue jump, email me the receipt, doesn't need a printer.
No, and off you go. And look, that's actually a really good point, Todd. Like some people say, oh, but I wouldn't want to sell from this device because I need to gift wrap or I need to, put it in a bag or do something like, or I want to print a physical receipt. Milligram, Scott's done an amazing job at creating this really cool in-store experience with POS. He's been an adopter for a long time now. And every time we release something new, he jumps on it and he just innovates with it. And so they have their kind of whole ethos in store is they don't have square, big, clunky checkout tables. They've got these beautiful round tables because they want it to be a conversation when you check out. Mm-hmm. And when we brought out these flexible handheld devices, these are great, like if you're having a massive sale day or like, around Christmas time and there's 50 trillion people in your George Street store. He's set up like these satellite style checkout areas. Yeah, little pods. And he's done it like, when you're on the airplane and the air hostie walks down with the what do we call
trolley. Yep.
Trolley. He's got these trolleys that he's set up with shopping bags and receipt printers. And so literally we can still have that really flexible style selling experience. We can talk about the pens at where they are, but then I can just quickly pop over to the little satellite trolley, get everything that you need, still package everything up and deliver to you where you are. So yeah, it's really cool. Like I think, again, for a merchant that is willing to keep up with the tech and innovate, you can do some pretty cool things with those devices.
So before you jump into showing us what the screens look like, let me throw some quick fire what do you call it in sales when the resistance or bits and pieces that a common retailer will knock you back on.
Yeah.
So give me some quick fire answers. What if my internet goes down? Is there an offline mode?
There is, yes. You can still take payments offline. That is totally fine. I can't account, well, actually, no, I can. Like if Optus and Telstra want to completely go off again, you've got that option.
Can I have a cash draw or do I have to be credit card only?
No, you can have a cash draw.
Okay. How many point of sales can I have in one store? Won't they all conflict with each other?
No, they're all their own little, that is one point, that everything is Bluetooth connected. So if you have multiple of these, they'll connect to, you have to have multiple receipt printers, but no, you could run 40 of these in store if you so wanted.
And here's a naive question. I know the answer to it, but when I speak to a lot of retailers, they're used to having a daily SFTP of their data that comes up from their ERP. So how current is the data that people are looking at in Shopify POS?
Yeah, very. So and this is kind of getting into like tech stack diagrams, which I don't like to do, but Shopify POS and the Shopify ecom is where all the data syncs, right, from an inventory perspective. So we also have that central view of inventory. That's updating, and you can see this in a minute, like every 10 to 30 seconds. So it is quick, and you don't need to worry about what your store staff are seeing and potentially overselling. Like I always hear, I need to build buffers into my inventory because all the syncing and the data and everything is off. You don't have to worry about that with POS because it is so live time. And then from Shopify, it then syncs back into the ERP. Now, how quickly you want that to happen depends on kind of who's looking at the ERP. Some people go, we'll just do that end of day because that's when we look at that reporting. But otherwise, you can know confidently that what you see on that device is like very real time.
Can I use my existing hardware that I've got?
No. Some stuff, to be fair, that's a lie. Some stuff is compatible. So we have a big list on the website where you can, like to your point, cash drawers, barcode scanners, receipt printers. We do have a compatibility list, but you can't, guess what? You got to say goodbye to that clunky desktop system. You do have to bid that farewell. You can put that
So
up.
power PCs are gone.
Hey.
Power PCs are gone.
The PCs are gone. They are out the door. The kind of the thing that you have to buy is an Android or an Apple device, and then you need a payments device, and the rest you can run without. But yeah, you do have to kind of level up some of your tech.
And do I have to use ShopPay, or can I use my existing FPOS provider?
Yeah, good question. It's one we get asked all the time. You can. You absolutely can bring your own terminal. So if you have Westpac or whatever, but you do lose functionality. So the great thing about Shopify payments is that it's all omni. And so when you take a payment, there's no back-end manual reconciliation. There's no plug in the number into the FPOS machine with a worry that someone bangs on or misses a zero. It's all integrated, back-end reporting, end-of-day reconciliations all done for you. So we tend to say, look, you definitely lose the functionality if you're not doing that. And the great news is, like, these days we really stack up against most people's terminal rates anyway. So, and
this is actually a big one for a lot of retailers because it caused them a lot of consternation. Can I, if I use the native environment, can I use Afterpay and Lay-by and ZipPay? Does that all come out of the box?
yeah, that's all integrated within the POS. So you absolutely can. Yeah.
So it's not as weird and clunky as having to show people your different barcodes and all those kind of things and weird settings on FPOS terminals to fire up Afterpay. It's now just there.
It's just there. And what I find amazing as well is how, like, Afterpay really is like, has a big wallet share. And I wasn't quite aware of that. I'm not actually a user of it myself, but because now everyone just has the cards on their phones, they just tap them as though they're their credit card or their FPOS card. And yeah, our system allows that. It's fully integrated. So easy as shopping any other way.
Amazing. All right. That was your quick fire grilling.
So bad. You're going to hit me with more.
Why don't you give us a little screeny share of a peek behind the scenes? Because I've been yapping a lot here, and I think it'd be great to see what's actually there.
Yeah. So look.
There we go. We've got rid of the logos. Great. All yours.
Cool. So what I kind of want to show is that this is the handheld device. And what you see here is what you're now seeing on the screen. However, I'm just running this off my iPad. So it just tends to be a little bit easier when you're doing that. And again, this is probably what you'd have on the cash desk. Now, what you're being presented with here is a PIN code. So when every single store staff member would have their own PIN code, couple of reasons, security reasons, privacy, like you can have all different permissions for all different store staff. So your managers can see reporting and all that kind of stuff. Being an American company, we're obviously built for attribution of sale as well. And I'll show you what that looks like. But, Todd will kind of speaking a little bit at the start around the online team, the offline team, making sure we're tracking sales back to the right person. Now, whilst I think it should all be blurred, there is a way to do that. And that's all kind of fed through the PIN code. So when we jump in, I always forget my PIN code, which is never great. This is the POS system. So very simply, this is what it looks like. This is the home screen. We call this our, stop me if I start to get too in the weeds, because I can do that sometimes. This is our smart grid. So much like an iPhone, they're wiggling around now. So I can pick them up and I can move them and I can do all different things. Now, for those of you that might have 100 store locations, don't have a panic attack. You can lock this and you can set this from head office. So store staff aren't changing things around, but it just gives you the ability to see that like you create whatever you want with your tiles and you make sure it's customizable to you and makes sense for your stores and your customers as well.
Great.
What do you want to see? Do you want to go through a bit of a purchasing sequence?
Exactly. Yeah. Let's buy something.
Cool. So obviously all different ways in which you can do this. Like, as I said, if you were doing it on the handheld device, you'd have your barcode scanner. You might even have a barcode scanner attached to your front setup device as well. But, just for argument's sake, you can either set your tiles up so that you've got variants that, potentially, as you can see, I've been selling some very beautiful high heel platform shoes, or you can come into your products tab as well to see all your different things. So I don't know, for example, if we pop this blouse into our cart, what you can see here is all the different sizes and variants that we've got of that blouse. Now, if I just jump into one of these at the moment, we can see everything from an inventory standpoint here. So I can start to see things like how many I've got on hand at my store, but actually look at this, how many available at other locations as well. Now, to your question before, Todd, last updated 5 seconds, 6 seconds. This is how quickly all that inventory is being updated across all the different stores. So I can very easily jump in here and see where all the inventory is being held on hand. So again, if you came in and we wanted to buy your green hoodie and we didn't have any in store today, I could be like, well, look, there's 10 at Manly. Let's have a conversation about either shipping that to you or potentially getting it transferred to this store and you can come and pick it up, have all those different conversation pieces.
So you could create a single blended cart here of the product I'm buying and then something that's going to be shipped to me from Manly in a single transaction. And then Shopify split that up for me. Yeah,
or via order routing.
So your opportunity to upsell here starts to go through the roof.
It does. It absolutely does. So let's just say for the moment, you're going to take we'll add that to the cart, and I'll head to my cart. So at the moment now, we've got that item in our cart. Now, to that point, at this point, I've probably not done the right thing. I tend to recommend to our merchants that we actually understand who the customer is first. So you can do that at the start, and we can put them into our cart without actually having put anything in there. But let's now add a customer. We can either create a new customer, which you can see here in all these fields, or conversely, we can start to search a customer. Have you been a customer with us before? I'm going to add Marty into the cart here. Now we can see very quickly that Marty is a returning customer. He's made 20 orders in the past. And I don't know if you noticed, but this little tile here, which is the Yotpo tile, popped up with 17,000 points. Beneath save a draft order. Now, that's kind of links back a little bit again to what we were talking about previously of that kind of omni-style apps. Yotpo is one of those apps that if you have on like a loyalty system or program, online and offline, what this is picking up is his points balance for everything that he's shopped across all platforms here. Now, if we jump into Marty just for a moment, I can see all this really cool information about him. I can see how long he's been a customer for, how much he spent with us, and how many orders. And we can actually jump in and start to narrow down and view all these different orders. Now, what you'll start to see here is if he's got unfulfilled orders, where he's made those orders. He's had a great time at the Bondi store, but look at this. He's also made purchases on the online store as well. All of that data, all of that information, I can really start to see here. This is where as well, like talking about those really cool integrated apps that you might have, this is where you'd start to see things like what Marty had browsed online, what he maybe has in his cart, what he's put on a wish list. All of that kind of stuff will start to surface in that customer profile if you've got those things set up.
Some of the versions that I've seen in stores in Auckland is they rotate or they flip the iPad towards me, and then they ask us to put our email address in. Is there a bias there for self-identification versus the retailer identifying them?
And look, it just depends on how you want to do it, right? Like to your point, Todd, if we didn't want to do that, we could have. And the great thing about our systems and settings is they kind of, to your point, flip. Like we have this cool stand. Yeah. I can have the iPad facing to me and then I just flip it and the whole thing flips over to you. We could clear him from the cart and I could have gone, let's just add your customer details and allow you to do it yourself as well. Again, that friction.
So when you do that flip, it almost moves it into it fires up a different screen, right? So it stops being a all of POS screen and it starts becoming a just type in your email screen, right? Yeah.
That's correct. Like you can't then start making sales from this.
I'll give myself some points whilst I'm not looking.
Yeah. And that's the same with these handheld devices, right? Like that's what I love about these is it's just like, here, pop in your details for me and off we go instead of trying to go through the laborious process of how do I spell your name. So if I just add Marty quickly one more time. Up here.
I noticed almost as well, that when you were adding a customer there, you can also sign them up to your mailing list as well, and that they accept marketing.
That little toggle just here. Yeah. It'll allow you to make sure that you're meeting them there. Another big thing it always makes me laugh because I just assume that gift cards should be omnichannel, but here you can see the gift cards that are sitting on Marty's profile as well. So again, I walked into a store just down the road the other day from me and I didn't have my gift card and so I couldn't make a purchase because it was physical. And I was like, well, you've just lost the sale now. See you later. With us, everything's omni. So if you purchase a gift card online, you can use it in store, online. You can still have your physical gift cards. But the great thing about this is I can be like, hey, Marty, you've got a gift card to use in store today. How about I email or text that to you? And then you can use it on your purchase too.
Great.
Yeah. And again, when we were talking a little bit early, beaconized systems, it'll start to pick up that this is in my wallet. I've walked into store. How can I use that gift card, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's the main kind of cool stuff that we've got going on there. And then honestly, it's as simple as, and like, look at these tiles as well. We've set up that, if a VIP walks in store, they can actually recognize that Marty's been tagged as a VIP. And now I have the option to put the 10% VIP discount on him. So start to think about some of those really loyal customers that you have, or maybe you have a big VIP system. Really simple stuff for your staff to do. And I think it's how you have conversation. It's how you upsell. It's how you do all that cool stuff that your staff members can add value to those customers and the tech just does it for them. They don't have to look into systems. They don't have to do all this complicated work to do that. And then, you just simply check out. However you want to check out. We'll take a cash payment today. And off we go. What's cool about this as well is, again, leaning into that email marketing now. So at this point, we can obviously print a receipt, but we can also email receipt, text a receipt. And very soon, and Todd, you mentioned it earlier at the start of the conversation, I think we're up to like 350 devs working on the product day in, day out, like to a point where they ship, or we put out updates in the POS quicker than we can keep up with half the time. So often we'll get calls from merchants being like, hey, we've worked out you can do this thing on the POS. Can you talk us through it? And we're like, didn't even know what to do. But we will help. So being able to send your receipt to your shop app, and being able to continue that customer journey. So now I don't have to have it in my emails and everywhere else. It can all aggregate into my shop app. And then again, think about how you can leverage that data as the merchant. I'm then starting to pick up things like, hey, Todd, I've now got you're now in the shop app. This is what you've purchased before. Hey, let's start to feed you some more stuff in your shop app that might be interesting to you from our brands. Again, that continuation of that customer journey and that experience and being able to meet that customer. It's really exciting.
I think also right there, Ash, is a mindset shift of where new features just appear when you come into work. This wasn't you waited for the quarterly upgrade cycle, or there was a massive, 0.01 version release. This is a continually evolving product.
It is. It's scary and exciting all at the same time. But I think, to me, when I hear and I go into conversations with merchants and they say, oh, we need to be able to do this thing and we can't do it. I'm like you're now doing a disservice to your merchant, to your customers. You're not showing up. You're not giving them what they need. And then in turn, that's just affecting your bottom line. So yeah, it's interesting.
Amazing. Alrighty. Thank you so much for that little demo. There's obviously that's a very surface level look at things. Let's just, Raven, do you just want to pull that one down?
There's so much more we could dive into, but
there is. I looked and we've been going for 55 minutes on a 30-minute podcast. So time flies. Two last questions for you. Do I need to have a Shopify website to use Shopify POS and to bother reaching out to speak to Ash?
Always speak to me. I love to talk, in case you haven't worked out 55 minutes later. You don't have to have a Shopify website. You can actually connect this to your store. You do lose some omnichannel features though, right? Sure. And I think that's where we go. The value is best served when you have Shopify eCom and Shopify POS. But big retailer in the States, Stance Socks, they use a different ecom platform and then use Shopify POS because they really wanted to get a feel for those omni features. And then now they're coming over to the ecom.
Well, I think that's an interesting thing. This isn't a phase 2 of a website. You can start with POS and then do the website second if you wanted to.
You could, yeah.
And very last thing, what's coming? What's exciting you? We've obviously got hoping for this retail turnaround in the second half of the year. What's keeping you so buoyant and elevated and optimistic for the rest of this year?
So much. I just think for me, it's I just love where retail's going and how people are leveling up their in-store experience. And I love the fact that now you walk into stores and you feel something and they're beautiful and everything's moved away from, to your point at the very, very start, the tech needs to do the thing, but it's all focused on accounting and software and all of those boring bits. Now, what I love is that the tech just does the thing, and you can focus on innovation and how you serve your customers and what other cool things that you can be doing that allows you to show up. And I know, like, if you look at future state of like where Shopify is going, this whole Shopify payments, shop app, closing the circle in the retail space is what keeps me going and what makes me really excited. Those conversations that I get to have with merchants every single day is fun, because it's kind of limitless then, right?
It is indeed. And I actually think the best thing for the audience here is, the majority of people listening in tend to be Aussies and Kiwis. I think the best thing you can actually do is actually go and see the product in practice at a retailer and see how they've adopted it. So you name dropped in there LSKD, milligram,
July store, really cool job. And they're the ones that I think now, like, they don't even have stock on floor. They've got runners that are running out the back, grabbing the stock, all done through the POS. New Zealand, who's your good ones in New Zealand? You'd know that better than me.
So I was actually introduced to the new version of Shopify POS by my 13 or 14-year-old daughter at a little cosmetic store called Hikoko, Hikoko, a Korean cosmetic store. And it was being flipped over. She was typing in her numbers. She was getting her loyalty points. It's like, Dad, don't pay yet. I need my points. So I've seen it at Hikoko. One of my favorite stores, Loaded, on High Street in Auckland. But yeah, I think we're seeing it more and more, and just going in and just, I don't know, just go and buy the cheapest thing on the shelves and see how that experience works, and then open an account on the website, see how it syncs back together. But I think my one biggest takeaway from today is that we can provide all of this technology, the data points, the single view of the customer, but it's this incumbent responsibility on the retailer to innovate and leverage that to change the experience, because the tech won't change the experience. It can only enable it, right?
Yeah, you can have it's like anything. You can have all the things, all the gadgets, all the bits in the world, but unless you're doing the thing, you're going through the change management to use it and make it worthwhile, then you're not going to see the benefits. And that's putting the onus back on the merchant. And I do agree with that.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Ash. Illuminating and joyful as ever. So thank you so much. I hope the weather solves itself for you. And hopefully we start to see more and more of your product in market.
You absolutely will. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Could have talked all day, but thank you.
Cheers, Ash.
See you later. Bye.